The aim of the project Harrow Weald, One Place, Different Times, was to find a new way of making the past interesting, to explore the joy of history, and to have fun. Fortunately, funding was secured from the Heritage Lottery Fund to support the initiative.
And this picture is actually in other churches, but it's in different colours, so...
There's less time on the curriculum for history, and not all teachers are specialists. It takes time to develop a passion for a subject, and it was felt that this project would inspire the children who took part to move on to study history, perhaps at GCSE level or beyond.
The white and black stripes of the top was from the Tudor times.
A project which would engage children with heritage was developed to help them understand more about the society in which they live.
Any ideas?
20 years.
No, a bit more.
The plan was to give children a taste for discovery and the tools to find out more.
Well done!
It was agreed that the starting point should be the area where the young people lived, and that All Saints Church was the perfect focus.
Already been welcomed to All Saints Church.
The vicar was committed to preserving and promoting the heritage of the church, which has a wealth of artefacts and memorials, and was keen to work in partnership on the project.
We'll go a little closer in a moment, but it's made up of tiny, tiny squares.
Do you know they put on comic operas?
An added bonus for using this venue was the church's link with the local community. A number of people who were involved with the church were engaged, and these volunteers offered a wide variety of skills.
They never found his body because there was too much damage in the land.
6 aspects of history which are reflected in the church were selected as starting points for the topic work. World War I, World War II, the designer William Morris, the dramatist and librettist W.S. Gilbert, the food producers Cross and Blackwell, and the architect William Butterfield.
Did any of your relatives tell you about the war, or did they keep quiet?
My grandmother often talked about the First World War because her brother had been in the army before the war and was recalled to serve in the army, and he was one of the first British soldiers to die.
World War I was chosen to tie in with the centenary. The children heard some of the stories behind the names on the memorial and the memories passed down to some of the parishioners.
But you see the long, what an airship looked like. It was a very long, like a very long balloon, you know, and it was huge and it was very high up. Now, William Leaf Robinson only had a very little plane, and he went right up, very high, and managed to shoot down this Zeppelin.
So they were all given...
All brave men.
All given different medals for the different places they've been, but unfortunately he was shot very badly.
For the subject of World War II, learning was based on the memories of people who grew up in the war.
Can you tell me about the dig for victory?
Oh, yes.
Because a lot of things we couldn't get because we used to get them from abroad, and because there were so many U-boats trying to stop sinking the ships to bring food to us, a lot of people tried to survive on planting their own food.
Alongside these accounts, the children were able to touch and hold artefacts from the Stanburn blast shelter, with the volunteers supporting the children's understanding of the meaning of treasured items kept from the past.
Bushes and leaves, yes, because the soldiers were crawling around on the ground, weren't they? And so they were being hidden, and hopefully hidden, and it blended in.
I'm not sure if they're significant.
The William Morris theme started with the window at All Saints Church, which was designed by one of Morris's creative partners, Edward Burne-Jones. Back in the classroom, the window formed the basis of a discussion.
They wore long dresses, and they looked like they were kind ladies. They were very beautiful, and they were all in different places.
And also, in different churches, the colours vary in the clothes. So in one church it might be blue, red and green, and the other could be blue, purple and yellow.
The window also inspired the children to research Morris and his contemporaries and produce prints in a way that reflected both his particular style and techniques.
We did this at the William Morris Gallery, we got like shapes to put paint over, and then we pushed them down onto paper, pretending that we were printing onto the paper. And it was very messy, and it was really fun.
This memorial, of course, isn't where he's buried.
Another group studied the life of dramatist and librettist W.S. Gilbert, whose memorial is fixed on the wall of All Saints Church. The Grimsdyke Hotel, which was formerly the home of W.S. Gilbert, provided the focus for much of the teaching of this topic. The children's guide told the story of how Gilbert lived, his career and tragic death in the nearby lake, while trying to rescue a young woman who'd got into difficulty in the water.
So she shouted, and Gilbert rushed in to try and save her, and when he rushed over, he actually had a heart attack.
It's important that children are able to relate to the histories they learn about, so back at school they were given lessons in how to perform one of the best-known songs from Gilbert and Sullivan's comic opera, The Pirates of Penzance, giving them an even greater sense of the music and the time in which it was created.
They are, in fact, still in partnership.
The tombs of the food producers Edmund Cross and Thomas Blackwell sit side by side in the churchyard at All Saints.
They bought the company.
Volunteer and former history teacher Nick Alton explained to the children the significance of Cross and Blackwell's innovations, especially in canning and bottling.
By 1837, they were actually selling sauces to the Queen. And these people were really rich people.
He also revealed to the children that the scale of the tombs was designed to reflect the considerable wealth and economic importance of the men when they died.
Blackwell was, we guarantee it.
The sheer colour and vivacity of the mosaics at All Saints, designed by the 19th century architect William Butterfield, captured the children's attention wholeheartedly.
In the 1950s,
The vicar, James Mercer, explained to the children that despite Butterfield's work now being of historical importance, parts of it were in fact covered up in the 1950s, as it was considered at the time to be inappropriate. Only in recent years has the extent of his work been rediscovered, and it's hoped that this will continue.
When Gilbert lived here, this was his big living room, and he used to do a lot of entertaining here. And if you look up there, that's what we call the gallery. People can go up there and play music. In Gilbert's day, when he entertained musicians.
The tours, led by volunteers, provided more storytelling opportunities and also provoked questions.
Did William Morris design things?
Well, William Morris was in the same artistic movement that I told you about the architect, Norman Shaw? Yeah. Well, he's called an arts and crafts architect, and he was in the same movement as William Morris.
Different churches decided to have it in different colours.
Being able to see and touch the memorials, windows and decorations in the church and its grounds was very important to the children.
I know that.
So much information is now found from the internet, but photographs and film clips are not the same as standing in the presence of history and feeling the evidence that surrounds you.
As a volunteer, I like to give back to the community. I like to think of the generations that are to come, and that the legacy that we have today in this particular place will live on through them.
When the children have been doing this project, when they've been walking around and looking at old things and talking about them, the past has come into the present for them, and I think that makes a huge difference, and it will change the way that they look at things in the future. They will never again just go to a museum and pass things by. They'll want to look more deeply, and they want to ask questions.
Were you evacuated?
Yes, I was evacuated because the bombing got so bad, and I had about 9 brothers or 10 brothers in this greengrocery shop my father used to own, and it got so bad my mother was ill in hospital and 3 had to go away and was evacuated.
The older people who worked with the children had a lifetime of experience to offer, and the added benefit of having time to devote to working with the groups. The patient, clear and colourful delivery enhanced the children's understanding and was particularly helpful for pupils where English is an additional language.
How did you feel in the bomb shelters?
If there was a big air raid, then my parents used to come in the shelter as well, and my grandparents as well, because they lived in the same house as us. So there were 6 of us in the shelter sometimes, but the air raids lasted up to about an hour. So, and we used to sing, talk, like jokes. My brother used to sleep. He was always asleep, my brother.
Through involvement in the project, children found history less challenging and were able to tackle difficult concepts more easily. For example, they understood that people had complicated lives and worries, that they suffered loss but enjoyed comradeship. The volunteers provided a quality of narrative which couldn't be found through reading up on the subject. They had family stories to tell which went a long way back, and the sharing of photographs, medals and letters added an important personal touch for the children. Training given to the volunteers and children by a professional oral historian improved the quality of the interviews. The use of digital equipment enhanced the children's understanding of the skills involved, as well as developing their speaking and listening abilities.
Off you go.
What was different between Russian, Amen and children? I enjoyed this time because I don't know about World War I and World War II, so they explained very nicely what they happened about their family members, so I liked it very much.
It's so important that they find out about it from people that can remember, especially the Second World War element of it. These people were children in the Second World War, and my class really could relate to that. A lot of the feelings that were brought up. Some of my class have come from countries, war-torn countries themselves, and their families have experienced similar things happening to them. It's been such a wonderful experience. It's been a joy to watch the old and the young together. And I've learnt so much about the local area, and I've lived here for years, things I didn't know, and it's really brought history to life.